You're the royal taxidermist who hides a dying dynasty's secrets inside the animals. This is you, elbow deep in a lion the size of a sofa, glass eyes staring at the ceiling, the king's proudest kill. Except you're not packing it with sawdust and wire. You're packing its hollow chest with a rolled confession that could drop a crown into the mud. The workshop reeks of formaldehyde and wet hide. Outside, the court dances. In here, you're burying treason inside a trophy nobody will ever think to cut open. Welcome to the safest vault in the kingdom. The dead. Rewind. You were nobody. A back-alley taxidermist stuffing dead pets for grieving widows. The kind of work that pays in copper and pity. Then the palace came calling, because the old king liked to hunt, and liked his kills mounted, and the previous taxidermist had a stroke over a stag. They wanted steady hands that asked no questions. You had both, so you moved into a stone workroom under the menagerie hall, surrounded by 100 glassy-eyed beasts, and you learned the trade of kings. Make the dead look alive forever. The pay was good. The silence was better. And then, one rainy night, a sweating courtier slipped through your door and asked you to hide a letter where no man would ever look. And your whole life changed shape. Because you looked around that room full of hollow, sewn-up animals, and you understood something nobody else in that palace had ever realized. Nobody searches the dead. Soldiers tear apart mattresses, floorboards, the linings of coats. They never once think to slit open the belly of a stuffed pheasant on a shelf. You took the courtier's letter, tucked it into the breast cavity of a duck you were mounting, stitched it shut, and handed him a bird worth more than a strongbox. He paid you in gold and terror, and that night you didn't sleep. You just stared at all those animals and saw, for the first time, 100 empty safes with locks only you could open. The safest place to hide a secret isn't the dark. It's inside something everyone's already decided is harmless. Stage 1, and word travels in a court the way rot travels through meat. Quiet, then everywhere. A duchess needs a will hidden. A general needs a map, gone. A bishop has a letter that would burn him at the altar. They all come to you because you're the one craftsman in the palace whose work is literally designed to never be opened again. You build a system. Love letters go in the songbirds, contracts in the boars, jewels sewn behind the glass eyes of the great cats where they wink in candlelight, hidden in plain sight. You keep a map in your head of which beast holds which sin. You become a living catalog of a kingdom's lies, and not one of them knows the others exist. In a palace where everyone is hiding something, the man who hides it for them holds all the keys at once. Stage 2 is when the danger sharpens its teeth, because secrets attract searchers. The king's spymaster gets a whisper that something's wrong in the menagerie, and one gray morning he sends men to tear the place apart. This is where a lesser craftsman sweats through his shirt and gets caught. You don't. You'd seen this coming, so you'd built decoys. Animals with false cavities stuffed with nothing but harmless nonsense. A fake hidden compartment in an obvious owl, primed to be found. The searchers slit open the owl, find a worthless old shopping list you planted, feel clever, and leave the real treason sleeping inside the lion 3 feet away. You let them win the small game so they'd stop playing the big one. Give a hunter something easy to find, and he'll stop looking for the thing that would actually hang you. Stage 3, and now the disease gets into your own blood, because you stop being a vault and start being a reader. Why wouldn't you? You hold the documents. So you start opening them before you sew them in, quietly, carefully, then stitching them away. And suddenly you're not just the keeper of the court's secrets, you're the only man alive who knows all of them at once. You know which duke is bankrupt, which general is selling secrets to the enemy, which loyal cousin has already drafted the king's death. You don't say a word. You just smile and bow lower than anyone, and watch them all bow back without knowing you could end them with a sentence. A man who quietly holds everyone's secrets never really has to bow to anyone. He just lets them think he does. Stage 4 is the one that turns your stomach and makes your fortune, because eventually somebody needs to hide more than paper. A great lord killed a servant girl who knew too much, and a body is a problem that screams. He comes to you because you, of all people, know how to make flesh disappear into something beautiful and permanent. So you do the unthinkable, and you do it with steady hands. You build a magnificent mount, a rearing bear, a centerpiece for the great hall, and you build the girl into the heart of it, sealed in resin and silence, displayed 12 feet from the throne where her killer toasts the king every night. The court admires your finest work and never knows they're drinking under a grave. The perfect place to hide a body is somewhere so beautiful no one would ever dream of looking for one. And that's the peak, the thin, clean air, at the top of the tower. You're not a craftsman anymore. You're an institution, a one-man treasury of every dark thing the dynasty has ever done. You've got gold buried under the floor and the king's own favor draped over your shoulders, because even he comes to you now, to hide the things a king can't be seen to keep. Nobles who wouldn't have spat on you a decade ago bring you wine and laugh too hard at your jokes, because they all know you could unmake them with a pair of shears. You sit in your stone room surrounded by a silent zoo of secrets, the most powerful man in the palace, and almost no one knows your name. Real power in a palace isn't the loudest crown. It's the quiet hand that knows where everybody is buried, especially the ones it buried itself. But here comes the crack, the same hairline fracture that splits every man who climbs this high. And yours is pure arrogance dressed up as caution. Holding 100 secrets in your head got heavy, and one sleepless night you do the thing you swore on your tools you'd never do. You build a master mount, one animal, a great black raven, into which you sew an index, a coded list of which beast holds which sin, the key to the whole library. You tell yourself it's insurance. You tell yourself you're too clever to be caught. You've just gathered every secret in the kingdom into a single bird and set it on a shelf, and you stand back and admire it like a genius. You forgot the rule you built your whole empire on. Anything that holds a secret can become the most dangerous object in the room. The fall comes the way it always does in a rotted court, fast and from above. The old king dies in his sleep, or maybe not in his sleep, and a young, paranoid heir takes the throne with a spy master who is sharper and crueler than the last. And this new regime understands something the old one never bothered to, that the menagerie isn't decoration, it's a library of treason, that every noble who ever needed something hidden hid it with the taxidermist, that you, the quiet man in the stone room, are the single most informed and most dangerous person in the entire kingdom. A walking confession the new king cannot afford to let keep breathing. They don't want your service anymore. They want your silence, the permanent kind. It accelerates like a blade dropped from a tower. The nobles whose sins you're keeping suddenly want them gone. And the only way to be sure is for you to be gone too. The new spy master starts gutting your animals one by one in the great hall, and each slit belly spills another secret, another scandal, and the whole court realizes at once what you've been sitting on. You spent your life making yourself indispensable, and you succeeded so completely that you became the one thing a frightened new king has to destroy. Your master raven, your clever little index. It's the first thing they reach for, and it tells them exactly where everything is, including you. The climax finds you in your stone room at the end, where it began. The smell of formaldehyde, thick as a fog, boots on the stairs, the menagerie around you torn open and bleeding paper. And you understand the perfect, poetic trap you spent a lifetime building. You taught a whole court that the safest place to hide a thing is inside something dead and beautiful. You taught them too well. Because the new king doesn't want you in a cell where you might talk. He doesn't want you in the ground where you might be dug up. He wants you exactly where you put everyone else. They take your own steady hands, the hands that hid a kingdom's secrets, and they hand them to your trembling young apprentice, the boy you taught, who learned the trade from your own legend. And they tell him to do his finest work. You spend your last clear moment staring at the glass eyes of the lion you started with. And you finally understand the only secret you never managed to hide. The keeper of the menagerie always ends up part of the collection. They stand you in the great hall, lifelike forever, the kingdom's deadliest secret sealed inside the only vault that never opens. And the court walks past you for 100 years, admiring the craftsmanship, never once guessing the man inside. That's a wrap for today. I'll be dropping more stories like this soon. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one.